Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. In this video, I'm sharing a real-time interview questions. You can say interview experience of mine for the role of automation test engineer at Vedantu. If you are preparing for automation testing interviews, these questions and answers will help you a lot. Let's jump in. So the first question they asked in Vedantu testing interview was, the difference between find element and find elements in Selenium. So the answer goes on like this, which I answered. Find element returns a single web element that matches the locator. If no element is found, it throws a no such element exception. Whereas coming to the find elements, it returns a list of web elements. If no elements are found, it returns an empty list, not an exception. Let's move on to the second question. What exception is thrown if find element doesn't locate an element? So the answer here is it actually throws no such element exception. I hope you guys are getting it. Let's move on to the next question they asked. What does find elements return if no matching elements are found? So the answer, as also mentioned in the first question, it returns an empty list with size 0. So like your script won't break. Coming to the fourth question, it's a very common question asked in even other interviews as well. Is WebDriver a class or an interface? The answer is obvious. WebDriver is an interface in Selenium. Browser drivers like Chrome driver, Firefox driver, etc. are classes that implement the WebDriver interface. It's a very important question, guys. Please note it down somewhere. Like it has been asked in many interviews before. Moving on to the fifth question they asked. Describe the automation process in your company. So what I here told was, firstly we need to understand the user story or feature, and then secondly we have to identify test cases that can be automated. Thirdly, we have to choose the appropriate locator strategies, that whichever locators you want to use, like ID or relative XPath or CSS selector and so on. The fourth step comprises of writing scripts using Selenium plus Java, and along with frameworks like TestNG or JUnit, whichever is suitable. Now, in fifth step, we have to add assertions, handle waits, and exceptions as well. Coming to the sixth, we have to push code to Git and trigger execution via CI tools like continuous integration tool. For example, Jenkins is a very common one. Now, lastly, we have to analyze the reports and logs for failures. So, in this way, you can tell the interviewer, if that person asks about the describe the automation process in your company. Moving on to the sixth question, how do you estimate automation time for a story? So like I told them, I break down the story into smaller cases, like based on complexity. Example, simple login versus dynamic table validation. I, estimate the time, and I do some consideration, like for example, locator difficulty, data setup, weights and exceptions, reusability of code. Okay, let's move on to the seventh question. What if you can't complete automation in the given time? That's also you can say a common question asked many times. So I answer this in this way, like I inform my lead immediately, whichever under lead I'm working. Secondly, I told them that I provide valid reasons, complex locators, environment issues, etc. Like whichever reason is responsible for it, in a way. And lastly, like then I prioritize the critical test cases and complete the rest for after discussion. Moving on to the eighth question: how to locate the first checkbox on a page with many checkboxes. So, like I have used XPath here for the validation of checkbox. I use find element here, and like I've written this code. We have also used here indexing, so to get the exact, you can say, the first checkbox on a page. But that's a quite unique way, to check unique web element. If the web element is some checkbox kind of type, so this works. So using this XPath, the first matching checkbox comes up. Moving to the next question, that's ninth. They ask how to automate product sorting by price, like low to high and high to low. So I answered them like click the sorting drop down, select the option like example price, low to high. Okay, capture product prices before and after sorting using the below code here that I mentioned or uh, told them in the interview. Then you know uh, I there was a need to convert price strings to numbers. And lastly, I use some collections, Java collections, for example, Java's collection.sort, to actually compare, the actual versus the expected. So this kind of, thing to actually operate in practical scenario usually takes like 2 to 3 hours. Like it depends on the UI complexity of the web application. Lastly, what activities do you perform in automation? This was another question, the 10th one. So the answer goes up like this. Like firstly, the steps are write and maintain test scripts. Okay, because you have to write and also maintain the test scripts. Secondly, create reusable functions. Thirdly, integrate with CI/CD pipelines. Fourthly, generate test reports. Extend a layout. Okay, these are the options. Moving to the next step, it's debug failed cases. If there are any failed cases, we need to debug them. And the last step, collaborate with developers for bug reproduction. We have to do some collaboration here with the developers. Moving on to the 11th question, they asked, what if tests that were working earlier suddenly start failing? So this is also kind of a unique question and might come up in many interviews nowadays. So the answer goes on like this. Check if UI is changed. Okay, you have to manually do the deep dive and check the element locators using the inspect and developer tool options in the browser. Secondly, check if there are timing issues. Like you can use weights something if there are some issues with the timing. Thirdly, you have to review the environment and the data you are taking. Fourthly, check dependency issues. Like if is there a code updates or something. And lastly, rerun locally to isolate root cause. They afterwards asked me about daily roles and responsibilities as an automation tester. That I answered like, firstly, I usually attend daily stand-up meetings. You can you know tell them whichever is your roles and responsibilities uh, here for this question. Like but some you can take these points as well, like if you haven't prepared like anything for this answer, and you can modify it on your own, depending upon your like exact roles and responsibilities. So coming to the second one, it's automate assigned test cases. Thirdly is update framework and scripts. Next one is execution of tests and like analyze failures. Like we have to analyze failures, whichever is coming up at that time, to report the bugs using Jira, and like lastly, collaboration with other QAs and developers. Now let's move on to the next question. So there's a they asked me difference between source main Java and source test Java. So I told him that source main Java is for main code like page, classes, utilities. Okay, and the difference here is like for source test Java, it's usually for test classes where we write actual test cases using TestNG or JUnit. Moving on to the 14th question, they asked how to validate text on a web page that needs scrolling. So we use here scroll to element thing. Like this is the code we used. I told them JavaScript executor needs to be used, and like we have to give this value as well as true, and that's it. This was the part for scroll to element. Secondly, validate text. We need to validate text also, right? Like after scrolling, so it would be the final step. So we have to do assertion here, assert equals, as you can see. In this way, we can check the expected text, the actual one. Let's move on to the next question. What do you know about Docker in automation testing? So I told them Docker lets you run your automation scripts inside containers. Secondly, this removes OS or machine dependency. Thirdly, with tools like Selenium Grid plus Docker, we can run parallel tests on multiple browsers OS easily. Moving on to the 16th question, and I think it's the last one they asked. They asked me to explain the CI/CD in automation testing. CI, also known as continuous integration, it's like this. Whenever code is committed, tests run automatically using Jenkins or GitLab. And CD, that stands for continuous deployment. It's for if tests pass, the app is deployed to staging or production. You can say it helps in quick feedback and stable releases. So these were all the questions from the Vedantu automation testing interview. And yeah, so that's it, folks. I hope this real interview experience from Vedantu helped you understand the kind of questions you might face and how to answer them with confidence. If you found this helpful, do me a small favor. Hit the like button, share this with your friends, who are preparing for testing roles. And don't forget to subscribe for more real interview experiences and testing tips. Also, if you have faced any unique question or have your own interview experiences to share with, drop in the comments. Let's help each other grow. All the very best for your interviews.